when we talk about how we work, I think the German culture and the Chinese culture are also pretty much complementary to each other. The Germans are known to be very perfect, hardworking. The Chinese are known to be very hardworking. The Chinese are much better than the Germans in promoting relationships, personal relationships. Germans are possibly rather distant, whereas Chinese people, they are pretty much open. They embrace other people. They have a talent to really build up relationships.
Hi everybody, this is Libin, Chacko, Kurian from Stat Media Group. We are here in Shanghai for Air Cargo China 2024. You see, Shanghai is an important trade hub, not just for China, but for the entire world. And the Shanghai Pudong International Airport acts as a connecting point for all the cargo that is coming in or going out to the world, for example. And the terminal operator at this airport plays a very important role in terms of ensuring how fast, how efficiently this cargo moves. With Carsten Hernig, he is the Deputy General Manager and VP Production, Sales and Marketing at Shanghai Pudong International Airport Cargo Terminal, or PACTL. Carsten, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
This is the 25th anniversary you are celebrating. How it has really grown from 1999?
1999, yes.
How big it has become?
Well, basically in 1999, the Pudong airport was opened as the new airport of Shanghai. So at that point of time, along with the passenger capacities which have been increased by this airport, also a cargo terminal had to be built. So for that purpose, the Shanghai airport has actually been in active search for partners. And they found two other companies in order to build this joint venture of PACTL, which one of them is Lufthansa Cargo, and another one is JHJ, which is a huge Chinese logistic company. So basically on the basis of having an airport operator, an airline, and a logistic company, you have an ideal foundation to build a cargo terminal, because you bring in airport knowledge, you bring in airline knowledge, and you bring in logistic knowledge from the logistic company. This, I believe, has been the solid foundation for the 25 years of success for our company, because as an independent terminal operator, we are combining all the perspectives. We look at things from the customer perspective, which is the airline. We look at things from the logistic company perspective, which is the forwarder, who is also a very important player in a terminal operation. And last but not least, we are looking at it from the airport perspective, which has a certain operational advantage, so that we also understand the airport business. So on this foundation, we have been grown over all the years. Obviously, we have grown along with the market. As you know, 25 years ago, if you remember, a lot of the production in Asia has still happened in Southeast Asia. At that point of time, we were talking about the so-called tiger states, where the production of the mobile phones, which were growing at that point of time, has happened. But during the years, production has shifted into China. Business development has happened in China. And Shanghai, being traditionally a port city, which has always been open for trade and which has always promoted trade in the world, has actually managed to attract these business flows into Shanghai, has established probably the best network and connectivity out of China, similarly on the sea freight side, so that we as a handling terminal had the opportunity to continuously grow. So what has started with one terminal and less than 10,000 tons a year has grown to a multi-terminal setup at one of the biggest cargo hubs in the world, where nowadays, probably in this year, we will be handling around 1.8 million tons of cargo. So it is a continuous success story over the past 25 years. And it is, at the end of the day, the hard work of the team. It is thanks to the continuous contribution and support of our customers, and hopefully also because of a solid product which the market likes to buy.
Okay, and we hear a lot about the new cargoes coming in, for example, the growth of e-commerce. Do you see that kind of cargo coming in and what kind of impact that has on your facilities?
Yes, the e-commerce is definitely the fastest growing part of the business, which we see at the moment when it comes to exports. The growth rates of this business, as we all know, are approximately 30%. The major production hubs or the major production places of the e-commerce are mainly in South China. Now here we are in East China. So we are not the first airport of choice historically for this kind of business. But as the capacities in the south of China are getting insufficient on the one hand, and secondly, Shanghai provides the best international connectivity thanks to the network, which I have mentioned earlier, we are seeing significant increase of this business also in Shanghai. We as PACTL have reacted by setting up our own e-commerce terminal, which enables our customers to handle e-commerce in a fast and fully compliant manner. When I say compliant, I mean in terms of customs compliance as well as safety and security compliance, which is very important because e-commerce is a business which is to some degree happening outside of the classical trade framework which we know from the past. It's not necessarily a freight forwarder involved and so on. There are different patterns in this business, so we have to react also with different offers for this business. So it is a growing market, yes, and I'm very confident also for the future on the growth of this business segment. But we shall not forget that there is also a solid base of what we would call dry cargo or classic cargo, which is still there. It is not growing that much. It hasn't had to change the process that much because we have seen the 3 years of the pandemic in between. But when I talk at this exhibition here to the forwarders, to the producers, to the airlines, I have the feeling that also for this part of the business, the outlook is actually not too bad. So in other words, it's coming back. And yes, there is talk about dual production, dual sourcing, and so on. But at the end of the day, this means that production facilities are moving to other places in the world where they are kind of duplicated. But this also means new traffics will be generated between the factories. So we will see traffics from China to these factories, which again is, let's call it a new kind of business which is coming up. So overall, also for the non-e-commerce business in exports, I believe there is no reason to be pessimistic at all. When we talk about imports, we have the classical situation, which is not unknown in China since years, that the export is dominating the imports in terms of volume, which means if carriers want to grow on the export, they have to bring in capacity also on the import, is inevitable, which means there are open capacities. For the airline, it means they have to manage the yields on the inbound, etc. But also we see inbound volumes quite significantly moving. Give you two examples. One of the very fast growing import business is pharmaceuticals, the whole cold chain. And another one, for example, is all kind of food stuff. Yeah? Because this is a huge consumer market. People here in China, they are importing a lot of food, delicacies, and to a large degree, this is flown in and also contributes to the growth of the imports.
Okay, you already mentioned that PACTL is a collaboration between an airport operator, an airline, and a logistics company. It is also a collaboration between two countries. It's a Sino-German joint venture. Can you give me an idea about how that collaboration has helped or worked in favor for the cargo community here in Shanghai?
First of all, a joint venture is always a combination of a different skill set. Every player on a joint venture brings in not only capital, but also different skills. One is good in handling, one is good in sales, and so on. And then you combine it, as in every team, it's nothing else than a team. If you have different players in a team, ideally complementary players, then you have a perfect team. So this is a little bit the logic which we are trying to replicate in our joint venture. We've talked about the airline and the forwarder or the logistic company and the airport company. If we look at the two countries, I think Germany and China, they are very, very long-term trade partners. Usually one is among the biggest trade partners of the respective other party, which means already there are business flows, cargo flows between these two countries, which already give what you would call in our industry a base load. Yeah, that's the one thing. When we talk about how we work, I think the German culture and the Chinese culture are also pretty much complementary to each other. The Germans are known to be very perfect, hardworking. The Chinese are known to be very hardworking. The Chinese are much better than the Germans in promoting relationships, personal relationships. Germans are possibly rather distant, whereas Chinese people, they are pretty much open. They embrace other people. They have a talent to really build up relationships. So this is already one thing where we are very complementary. Another thing is, as an international company, Lufthansa, and as a foreign culture, German culture, we can bring in, or I as a German, for example, I can bring in international experience. Yeah, I don't understand much about the Chinese culture because I'm only here since 1.5 years, but my Chinese colleagues do. So in this combination, we can combine international market access, international cultural understanding with national cultural understanding, a national way to do business, which at the end of the day is to the benefit to our customers because we can serve them along the entire chain. We are competent in China, that's our home base, but we are also competent beyond the border. On the arrival point or at the departure point of the cargo, we can team up, we have the relationships, and this is where I see the added value. And I think, and today we had also a visit of the German transport minister, and I told him as well, I think PACTL is a true success story. And here I'm not only talking about economics, but also in terms of what two cultures can achieve when they collaborate together and bring in their skills and their eagerness of getting things done and creating them positively. So I think we can be proud of what we have achieved, and I hope our customers confirm this statement, because if they are not proud, we can't be proud.
Okay, you are here in Shanghai for the last 1.5 years. Give us an idea about what is the future of Shanghai as you see.
As I said before, Shanghai has always been a trade port. So this city is a trade city. People are traders, they know how to do business, they know how to do business internationally. Shanghai at the same time, because of this, has a very good connectivity to the rest of the world. So I believe Shanghai will always have critical mass to have enough cargo to be a strong hub. Personally, I believe Shanghai will continue to be on the top 3 ranks of international cargo airports in the world. Sometimes maybe overtaking one. I mean, I wish so. I'm a little bit opportunistic here, but I think Shanghai will always play in this league. I think as well, Shanghai as an ecosystem has the ability to constantly improve and to reinvent itself. You hear rumors, not rumors, but you hear talk in the market, this airport is lacking ideas, that airport is lacking ideas, this country is losing pace whatsoever. But I'm always optimistic here in Shanghai that because this ecosystem has the ability to reinvent itself, that this trend will be a continuous growth trend. And I'm getting a lot of support from all the players here, from the airport, the authorities, and so on, that I have no reason to believe that the journey will not continue successfully.
PACTL has 3 terminals in Shanghai Pudong International Airport and 2 other terminals in 2 different airports. Yes. Give us an idea about how the cargo strategy is working out for all these 5 different facilities, for example.
Well, first of all, we have to handle the business. That's our core task. We have to make sure that the operation goes well, that the quality levels are high. I have to say, and I've been working, I think by now in 8 countries and been responsible for many more countries than that when it comes to the respective businesses which I have been running. I have to say the quality levels of the core business here in PACTL, they are almost unique. I've never seen such kind of professionalism and such high quality in the processes and in the delivery to the customers. That's the one thing. Second thing, when I look into the strategy, of course, we are trying to grow with the e-commerce. That's a new business to us, so we have to find solutions for that. I have been talking briefly about the cool business, the pharmaceutical business. We will invest in another pharmaceutical center, a second cool center. We have already one. We will invest in another one in Terminal 3. As we are growing along with the market, we have to modernize our facilities. We will modernize the Terminal 3. That's the first one to be modernized in order to improve our productivity and in order to be simply able to handle more volumes in the future as the market will be growing. We are trying to develop Shanghai into a hub. So far, Shanghai is a big cargo airport, but it is not a hub. Why? Because you have import and export. You have hardly any transit, as opposed to Dubai or Istanbul, which is probably 90% transit. So we are trying slowly but surely to develop Shanghai into a real hub. We've taken in the last 18 months a lot of effort successfully to enable transshipments on the airport, between the cargo terminals, and also between the two airports in Shanghai. So we are now able to do transit from Hongqiao Airport to Pudong, which means we have an air-to-air connectivity from this huge Chinese country via Pudong to the rest of the world and vice versa. So this is something which we are strategically developing over the next years. We are coming from almost zero, so I believe we can only be successful with it.
So talking about the other facilities that you handle, for example, other than the Shanghai Pudong International Airport, so you're basically using it for feeding it to PVG, right?
That's one of the ideas in order to get this connectivity to feed into PVG. You have to keep in mind China is such a big country that there is also a strong domestic cargo market. So this has also been served. So a good part of our business in Hongqiao, but also in Pudong, is domestic business. Simply because this country is so huge. People in the far west of China, they want to consume as well. By truck, it's going to take a number of days until goods would arrive, so they are flown as well. So there is definitely a domestic market. And as a Chinese company, of course, we have the task to also satisfy the needs of the Chinese market. So we are taking care of the handling of this domestic cargo as well.
Okay, how well PVG is connected to the Chinese mainland? No,
PVG is very well connected. Hongqiao, serving as the domestic airport, is even better connected. Now, if you connect the two airports, you have the ideal match of a domestic network with an international network. And this is what we are aiming for. As you rightly said, we have another airport where we have a terminal, which is the Nantong Airport, where we have a joint venture between PACTL and the airport. And we are developing this airport twofold. One thing is for, let's say, domestic express delivery. Secondly, we are targeting, bypass lanes for, let's say, charter operations and things like that, which are not necessarily ideal for a slot-critical airport like PVG.
Okay, tell us how your collaborations with other stakeholders are evolving, particularly, for example, PACTL West. I can see as a subsidiary of PACTL Assets, and Air China is a partner there. They have a hub at PVG, for example. How is that collaboration evolving?
Well, Air China is one of our two very big Chinese customers. The other one is China Southern. And Air China historically has actually a share in PACTL West because this is the terminal they are using. And I think the fact that we have these kind of different structures in the shareholding also shows that we are really operating as a neutral terminal. We are welcoming every airline, every player, and we are willing to develop the business with all the players in order to make them successful. Yeah?
Time Matters recently announced courier terminals at PACTL, for example. Give us an idea about what does it really mean to PVG or your company as such.
Well, at the moment, we do not have such an express or courier channel in our terminal. Actually, it's a new concept to China as well. And we have thought it looks like a business opportunity. It looks like an innovative idea. And sometimes in entrepreneur's life, you just have to embrace some new innovation and just implement it. So get it done and then see if it's successful. I believe it will be successful. I think it's something which can be replicated. We are, as said, a neutral terminal. If somebody approaches us with a good idea, we are definitely collaboratively bringing this idea to life, like we have done in this example.
Okay. I also feel like the airport sometimes, particularly during the holidays, like the Chinese New Year, face some cargo congestions, right? Yeah, I could see last February when the Chinese New Year was there was a communication from PACTL saying that limiting the number of cargo coming in before 48 hours of evacuation. So give us an idea about how well the infrastructure is built and where are the improvements needed. For example, you have 3 terminals in PVG, and where are the improvements expected?
Actually, we are modernizing our Terminal 3 in order to increase the throughput. And I have to say, we have no problem with capacity. We still have available capacity in PACTL. We are basically able to handle each and every peak. Even the Chinese New Year peak, which actually the few days before Chinese New Year, we are managing very well. However, you cannot leave things to their own development, because in such a situation, you might get the risk that people are misusing your facilities as a warehouse. But we are not a warehouse. We are a dock in, dock out. So basically, this is what we have to manage. And that's why in certain periods, we might restrict the delivery patterns simply in order to avoid congestion. But this is by no means an infrastructure problem. This is a process optimization problem.
Okay. The last topic, but not the least topic that I want to discuss is about the sustainability part of it.
Yes.
Okay. It's a very important subject in the air cargo industry and aviation industry as such. And what are the efforts that you take to make sure that there is sustainability throughout your business, for example?
Well, to begin with, why are we doing that? 2 reasons. Number one, of course, we ourselves, we have our aims that we become more eco-friendly and more sustainable. Also because there is also a legislation. But secondly, and most importantly as well, because our customers are demanding it from us, which I personally see as a positive sign, which means that the topic of sustainability has reached our industry already that deeply that people are actively asking for it from us. So we have to come up with solution. What do? We are operating solar cells on the existing terminal. We have by now converted all our forklifts into battery-driven forklifts, except for the very big ones, because there is no other technical solution at the moment, but we are on it. We have, as I mentioned before, the modernization of Terminal 3 coming up. And I mentioned as well, we are building a new cool center. So over the thumb formula, which we have in our minds, is that we are able to operate this new cool center in a CO2 neutral manner. What do I mean? We are putting on the modernized Terminal 3 as many solar cells that they can produce the equivalent of the consumption of the new cool center, because a cool center by definition is the most energy intensive. So that's the target which we have. And I believe using this example of producing as much as you consume in one particular terminal is also a very nice, motivation for our team. If we achieve that, it's much more concrete, a much more concrete target than to say, oh, we just want to reduce the emissions by XYZ%. I think we will reach a different degree of being proud when we can say to ourselves, hey, we are running this full terminal eco-friendly.
Okay. One of the strategies to have sustainability in aviation is by using the sustainable aviation fuel, SAF.
Yes.
So do you see that angle picking up? Your airline partners, are they, how much they are getting in, or how much you can contribute to that part?
I think this is definitely a very promising path into the future. I see 2 limitations at the moment. The one is a commercial limitation, even though I'm not involved in active sales to the market. But what I hear from the airlines is that there is still a certain resistance in the market to pay a higher air freight rate for using better fuel. That's the one thing. The other thing is there are limitations in the availability and the distribution of such kind of fuel, for which I, as a handling operator, I have also no solution, but I observe it in the market. And I believe as an industry, we have to find solutions for these 2 topics. Supply is one of the things which need to be solved. And on the other hand, the commercial topic needs to be solved. And maybe at one point of time on the commercial part, there will be also some governmental regulations.
Okay. Do you also see, as a terminal operator, will you be able to support such initiatives from airline side or from the airport side as such?
Wherever we can, we will do. As I mentioned earlier, we are open for any kind of innovation, be it on the pure business side, be it on the sustainability side. Whatever makes sense for us and for the industry at the end of the day will be good for the trade and therefore for our customers.
Okay, one last question. What is the future that you see for PACTL in next 5 years?
I look positively into the future, very positive. You read a lot in the market that the Chinese economy is facing problems, and you read all kinds of things. If you look at the reality, the growth in China is still in the range of 5%. Even if it drops, it is a growth on such a high level of production that there is a significant amount of additional volumes created every year. That means the business will remain strong. Point one. Point two is there is the e-commerce business as a new way of doing business, which generates more supply and more demand. And thirdly, I believe what I said earlier, Shanghai and also China to some degree has always reinvented itself. And I am trusting very much in this capability. So I'm very positive about the next 5 years.
Carsten, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the interview. All the best to you.